So the OLED is connected with the DSP processor through the I2C bus. We've seen this before, and in this file here we have this send function that will send commands, I2C commands. So this address is we've seen this before. We can find it on the datasheet of the USB stick board, and it's similar to how we used before to configure the audio codec. We are going to use this function to send commands, I2C commands, to the OLED. Then we also have this initialization file for the OLED. So the OLED, it has a lot of possible configurations. So we also have to initialize the I2C bus. Here is to power up. So as I mentioned, the OLED is connected to a power circuit that it's enabled by a GPIO from the processor. So we need to enable this GPIO to give power to the OLED, and we are doing this here. Then we are initializing the display. We need to set the start lines, set the contrast levels. This is remap is something really interesting, because we can remap, so we can invert, for example, this can go from 0 to 127 or from 127 to 0. So it's useful to invert rows and columns, so horizontally and vertically. That can be very useful. And we have here we can set offsets. We need to set clock. We need to set some voltage levels. Then we can also need to set the column addresses, the page. So this is the initialization of the OLED. So now we have a function to send commands to the OLED. We've seen this before. This is based on the I2C. We use this a lot to configure the OLED. And now we also need to have some functions to print messages. So we will have this function in this file. Is the print character. So I am counting here that we have a 5 by 7. So I am going to use extra space, so it will be a 6 by 7. In fact, it would be a 6 by 8. So we have 16 as a 96 by 16. So we will have 2 rows, each one with 8 bits. And we will have 96. So if I'm using 6, so this will give us the number of values of characters we can display in each line of the OLED. So here what I'm doing is I am sending, so this is values that will come from the font we have here. So those values here. So if I give it an A, it should send these values here. So this is what we are doing here, and an extra space, so there is space between fonts. So with this function to print characters, we can also have a function to print some messages. So we have a group of characters. In our case, we are going to use 16 groups of 16. So it will go, if we pass these values, like some text, and then it will go through each of the character, and then it will look into this table of the ASCII set, which is this font, what we have here. So this, it will look these values. We need to take in consideration that the first value starts here, so we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, and then this is what we are doing here. We are accounting for the 6. We also need to account for this 32 non-printable ASCII values. So when we are accounting for that, and then as we are using this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we are multiplying by 5 here. In this way, we have this. We print the characters from this message that we want, and then we can also display this message. So from here, we're just getting the characters from, for example, a string of characters. So we have a string with some text, and then we go through the characters, and then we look in this font table, and we get the values, and then we can send these values to the OLED. And for that, we have this OLED display message. So in fact, I modified here, so it's the 5x7. So this way you have the original OLED display message that you can use with the examples that comes with the board, or we can use this one and use with the font that I included in this project. So here we can configure scrolling, so it's possible to have vertical and horizontal scrolling of text. We need to set the low and high column addresses, set the page. So we are setting the page 0, and this is the top line. So we will pass a top line and a bottom line to this function. So there's some text on the top, text on the bottom, and then it will write on page 0 the top line. So it's calling this print message. So this all here should be this 5x7. So we have the print message, the bottom line, and the print message, the top line. And then we set vertical and horizontal scrolling. This is how we do it. And there is also a multi-send, so we can send more than one command, like we have these many commands together, and we use this multi-send, and this way we can display a message to the OLED. So we have this display that is using this print message, that is using this print character, and we are using this font called the LCD 5x7 font.